Today starts our 7th day of Unit 4 and our 3rd day of this section 4.2 on compound inequalities. So our first 2 days of compound inequalities was really focusing on a real-world refresher and a skills refresher, and then some real-world. Not a lot, but some. If you notice, today's notes is all about real-world. So let's jump right into our first example and see what today is going to be all about. Number 1 says, a basic cell phone plan costs $20 per month for 60 calling minutes. Additional time costs 40 cents per minute. The formula, check it out. As soon as you see you're given a formula, you should highlight it. So if you don't have a highlighter out yet, please go get a highlighter. We want given formulas to stand out, always. This formula gives the monthly cost for this plan, C, and so when you see a variable defined for you, underline that. For X calling minutes, when there's more than 60 minutes. We can also underline our question if you want, or circle the question. Maybe we'll change that up. Let's circle the variables that are given. And underline the question, because I realize that typically we're always working in the same pencil, so that way things look different. We'll underline the question, circle variables. I want to define my variables, so if I've circled them, they'll stand out to me. X is calling minutes. And notice it said more than 60. So we'll put that in parentheses. And then Y, or it doesn't use Y, it uses C. C equals monthly cost. So there's no math in defining these variables. It just is all about pulling out information correctly. So to recap, we highlighted the equation it gave us. We circled the variables that it gave us, and we underlined the question. Now the question says, how many calling minutes are possible for a monthly cost of at least this much and at most this much? So what we're going to do to set this up is we're going to take what it gives us, 20 plus 0.40 x minus 60, and really think about what this means. At least 28 means that this is going to be greater than or equal to 28. At most, $40. No more than or less than or equal to 40. So we're given this equation that represents monthly cost. So what you've really done is said, I'm taking what represents the monthly cost, which is this expression, 20 plus 0.40 times x minus 60, and you're applying this restriction, at least 28 and at most 40. At least 28, at most 40. Notice that it's an and we have set up an and inequality. So we're now ready to solve. We're going to put lines down our inequality signs just like we would. I would challenge you guys, if you can, to please pause it here and see if you can solve. Again, remember to focus on the middle. If you need my help to start, please join me on each step as far as you need my help. And as soon as I get as far as you need to finish, do it. So like if I do the next line and you're good to finish it from there, please do that. Focusing on the middle, the first thing I see that I can do is to distribute 0.40x. So that's what I'm going to do first. 20 plus 0.40x. And then I need to do 0.40 times negative 60. So that'll be a minus 24. These outside pieces are still here, haven't done anything yet. On the inside, I see that I can combine like terms. So this would be 0.40x. 20 minus 24 is minus 4. Remember, from each step, we're still focusing in on trying to get x by itself. So here, x was locked in parentheses. I distributed. Before I did anything else, I saw that I can combine like terms. Our attention is always on the middle. So in the middle, I ask myself, is there something in the middle that I could add or subtract? My attention is drawn to this minus 4. If I add 4 here, I have to add 4 to each of these sides. Line all the way across. 28 plus 4 is 32, less than or equal to, this is gone, 0.40x is left there, less than or equal to 28 plus 4, 32. This says 0.40 times x, so I can divide by 0.40. If you divide the middle by 0.40, you have to divide both sides. We'll get as a final answer x greater than or equal to 80, less than or equal to 110. If you've been following me from step to step, I would like you to pause here, please, and really walk yourself through each step and use your calculators to do each step on your own. For example, if you just wrote what I wrote about dividing by 0.40, pause here and prove to yourself that 32 divided by 0.40 is 80. I think I made a mistake. Sorry about that, guys. I had a copy error. This should be 44. Sorry about that. So 44 divided by 0.40 is 110. What does this mean? Well, remember that x represents calling minutes. So you can talk for 80 to 110 minutes. For that price range. Because x, you found, is between 80 and 110. So this is one type of problem where you're given the function and you take that expression and you apply something from the question. So for example, the question here, when is this between 28 and 40? So that's what we set up. When is this between 28 and 40? And then we used all of our solving skills to get to our answer. Number 2 is a little bit different. On the first 4 exams, your grades are 82, 75, 80, and 90. There's still a final exam, and it counts as 2 grades. You're hoping to earn a B in the course. This will occur if the average of your 6 exam grades is greater than or equal to 80 and less than 90. What range of grades on the final exam will result in earning a B? Notice I had nothing to highlight. There was no given equation, which is why up here it says, let's build it together, because we're going to have to build our compound inequality all by ourselves. So the question will help us know how to define x. The question says, what range of grades on the final exam will result in earning a B? So x is going to represent exam grade. Now, what we're talking about here is really an average. See, it says this will occur if the average of your 6 exam grades. So in an unofficial way, this is actually what we're going to build. And then notice here's the restriction on it, greater than or equal to 80, less than 90. So we have to actually turn what we just highlighted here, average of your 6 exam grades, into an expression. How do you calculate average? Well, I know 6 of my grades, right, or 4 of them. I know 4 of them, 82 plus 75 plus 80 plus 90. That's 4 of the 6. The other 2 that I don't know are represented by X. So plus X plus X. Those are the 2 grades we don't know yet. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So to find the average, you would add all those up and divide by 6. That is how we represent the average of your 6 exam grades. The 4 you know, plus the 2 you don't know, all divided by 6. And then I'm told that this, whatever this ends up being, has to be greater than or equal to 80. So how would I write that over here? My hint to you is that it'll be here. Pause here, and how do you say that this is going to be greater than or equal to 80? Greater than or equal to 80. How about the right side of this compound inequality? It says less than 90. So again, pause, and then how would you write this side? We're going to say less than 90. Notice how the question was very clear when it said greater than or equal to, which is why I knew I had the bar under here. But this says strictly less than, so no bar. We now have our compound inequality, and we're ready to solve. Lines down the inequality signs. Let's make life a little easier. In your calculators, please do 82 plus 75 plus 80 plus 90. We should get, hopefully, 327 plus x plus x we can write as 2x, and this is all divided by 6. Still greater than or equal to 80 and less than 90. I know that there's suddenly a ton of blank space on either side. That's okay. We want our lines here to stay crystal clear on what's in the middle, what's on the left, and what's on the right. So don't be trying to change these lines. Let them be. Paying attention to the inside, because that's where x is. Ask ourselves, how do we undo what's happening right now? This entire piece is being divided by 6. So to undo that, we are actually going to multiply this entire compound inequality by 6. You can either show giant brackets with a 6 outside, or you can show this. Whichever way you like. I'm going to stick to the giant brackets with the big 6 outside. 6 times all this. But whatever makes you happy, do that. So let's distribute. 6 times 80 is 480. Less than or equal to 6 times this. Multiplying by 6 and dividing by 6 cancel out. So I'm just left with 327 plus 2x. And then 6 times 90 I can't really draw that arrow nicely. Good enough. 6 times 90 we get is less than 540. Notice no more fractions. So multiplying through by 6 allowed this 6 to cancel, and then we can't just multiply the middle by 6. We have to multiply each end. Go ahead and pause here and please finish solving for x, and then we will compare answers. Keeping our attention on where x is, our first step will be to subtract 327. And if I subtract 327 from the middle, I have to subtract it from the sides. $480 minus 327, what'd you guys get? I got 153. 2x is still here in the middle. And then 540 minus 327, I got 213. This says 2 times x dividing by 2 will undo that multiplication. So we get as a final answer, x is greater than or equal to 76.5 and less than 106.5. Now this is the math answer. What does it mean? X is defined to be your exam grade. So to accomplish what you wanted, which is what range of grades on the final will result in earning a B, to earn a B, your last 2 test grades have to be between 76.5 and 106.5. I'm going to put that in parentheses because that's assuming there's extra credit. And notice how it says strictly less than. I'm going to put, I have to clarify, not including 106.5%. Or you could just say B between, or excuse me, to earn a B, your last 2 test grades and the reason why in this particular case you could just write that is because 76.5 to 106.5, it means in terms of a test is 0 to 100%. So if I had gotten something more specific like 76.5 to an 87, then this is the only sentence that would be okay. Because you're maxing out the highest possible score, you could also just say the second sentence. The key idea of number 2 is this idea of actually being able to set up your own compound inequality when you see this word average. So focus on that ability to set up your own average between 2 restrictions. In this case, between an 80 and between a 90. And then knowing how to clear that fraction. Number 3, parts for an automobile repair cost $175. The mechanic charges $34 per hour. If you receive an estimate for at least $226 and at most $294 for fixing the car, what is the time interval that the mechanic will be working on the job? So time interval tells me that X will be hours. Now, I don't have any equation that I can highlight, but I get the sense that we can write an expression for how much this guy's going to charge. says the mechanic charges $34 per hour, and the parts are this much. So from what I just highlighted in yellow, we can build mx plus b. We can write an expression for the repairs. Go ahead and please write, what would that mx plus b expression be if the parts are $175 and he charges $34 per hour? So it's $175 flat plus $34 per hour. If you receive an estimate for at least 226, so that means greater than or equal to 226, at least this much, and then notice it says at most 294. Less than or equal to 294. So here we have an expression for the total cost, $175 for parts, $34 per hour. Your estimate is between $226 and $294, and now you can solve. So please pause here and find the range for hours and write a sentence. My focus is still on X. If there's something on the inside I could add or subtract, I want to do that first. I see that I can subtract 175. If I subtract 175 from here, I have to subtract it from everywhere. $226 minus 175, I got 51, less than or equal to 34x, less than or equal to 119. My final step will be to divide everything by 34. If I divide the middle, I got to divide the sides. And we get x greater than or equal to 1.5, less than or equal to 3.5. The meaning of this my real world meaning, X is hours, so it will take between 1.5 or 1.5, however you want to say it, one and a half and 3.5 hours to fix the car, fix your car. So here the focus was recognizing that I had an initial cost and a rate, that I could build mx plus b using that information, and I, again, had at least this much, at most this much. That language helps me realize I'm setting up a compound inequality where my expression is greater than or equal to something and less than or equal to something. Solve, meaning, done. Number 4. The lowest temperatures ever recorded in the U.S. for each month of the year are shown in the table. Write a compound inequality that represents the range of record low temperatures T in the U.S. So take a second to look at that table. We have data from January through December. I'm looking for my lowest, my smallest, lowest temperature, and then my greatest temperature. When you find them, please circle them. My unknown, or X, is temperature. circle or highlight the smallest or lowest and the greatest. I'm circling negative 70 degrees Fahrenheit in January. And when I look, there's 2. 2 is positive. 5 is, but oh, look at that, 10. So there's no math involved here. We're going to say that x is greater than or equal to negative 70 and less than or equal to 10. In other words, x is between negative 70 and 10. We're also asked to graph this on a number line, so let's sketch a number line. Let's try to count by 10. So 70, 60, 50, 40. I think I can spread out a little more than that. I'm going to count by 10, but because the smartboard marker is a little chunkier, I'm going to label every other line. So my graph, greater than or equal to 70, less than or equal to 10. How you chose to count is totally up to you. Just get more than just those 2 numbers, though, on the graph. And we're done with number 4. Number 5 says, the teacher decided to separate their students and asked that they report to separate areas of the classroom if they earned above a 90 or below a 60 to review their math exams. I'm going to circle that word or because I want that to stand out to you. Write a compound inequality to represent these groups of students. Then, so let's underline the question. Then graph the intervals on a number line. X here represents what? What do you think? You might be tempted to say students, but what do we know about the students? We don't know their names. We know their scores. So X is exam grades. They're asked to go to separate areas if they earned above a 90, greater than 90, or, notice I pulled that word, or below a 60. So here is an or example, first one of today. The key is that it told me it was an or because I see the word or. Now let's graph it. So X greater than 90 is one group. Or less than 60. So the key for 5 is if you see the word or, pretty good chance that it's going to be an or inequality. After grocery shopping, we're on number 6. After grocery shopping, you are undecided if you should cook the ground beef that night to make tacos because you left the meat in the car. That's gross. The meat will stay fresh if kept at a temperature between 0 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Write a compound inequality to represent the temperatures that are not okay. Interesting. To represent the temperatures that are not okay. The unknown is the temperature, because that's what we're talking about, represent the temperature. So x equals temperatures. Strategy for this, first, draw a graph for what is okay, because that's what I'm told. The meat will stay fresh if kept at a temperature between 0 and 40. So this is what's okay. What's not okay is the opposite of this. So just visually, what would the opposite of that be? Let's get 0 and 40 back on the number line. So my answer will be if the temperature is less than 0 or greater than 40. The meat is not okay to eat. And we're done. So when you see this word not, pay attention. Notice it's bolded, capitalized, and underlined because technically you're given info on when it's actually okay. So first we started off by saying what's okay, sketching that for ourselves between 0 and 40. Then to answer the question on when is it not okay, we took the opposite. Sketched it first, and then once we had our sketch, it was very easy for me to write my inequalities from that. Nice job. I'm hoping we see that there's definitely kind of like an art, a strategy to really reflecting on what we have, what we're given to know what type of compound inequality we're going to set up. So the attached homework will mirror a lot of what you saw in today's notes. So while this is fresh in your head, if you do have a couple minutes to get started on some of the practice questions, that would be great. Otherwise, we will spend tomorrow in class working on the attached homework together. Have a great day and send me any questions you have on Remind. Bye.